Welcome back, everyone, to the right side of campus. A special time, a special day. It's Tuesday, March 14th, 2017. Donnie, we're days away from – actually, we're hours away, really.
Hours away, yes.
Yeah, I always forget about these playing games. We are hours away, basically, from the beginning of the greatest time of year. You know, it was funny, Don, the other day on my podcast, my daily podcast, my co-host Ryan and I were talking about – at the end of the show, we do a kind of a 5-question, that kind of thing, where we kind of talk about the things going on in the world, that kind of thing. And one of his questions was, what's the worst month of the year to you? And he said his was March. And
that's ridiculous.
I agree. How could you hate March? I guess he didn't like, I guess the time of the year and that kind of thing, but he mentioned he didn't like March. And I couldn't believe that. March is probably the greatest time of the year.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with that. If you're asking me as a gambling perspective, which is my worst time of the year that I don't really like that much, is actually the month of July, because you get that 5 to 6 day space in the middle with the All-Star game in Major League Baseball, where there's absolutely nothing going on, and all you're doing at that point is once that gets over, I know Major League Baseball has a lot of money to be made, but you're just waiting for that taste of football season. So for me, the month of July is probably the worst. At least it was boring for me.
Well, and baseball for me, I really enjoy. So again, there is that time in like All-Star break where there's literally nothing going on, where you're betting on like the WNBA and like, shit like that. But okay, wait a second. He texted me. It's January and February, he was saying, not March.
So he hates football playoffs and
well, no, I guess he doesn't really like who knows? But
is that because Michigan can't get into the playoffs and stuff?
I guess probably because Michigan can't ever get into the Final Four. But we're back, guys. We've got a snowstorm here in the East Coast. I know we were talking before we started here, Donnie.
Yep.
You don't got as much as we do. We probably have over a foot, I would imagine, at this point. It looks like it's winding down a little bit, but yeah, it's always sucky when you have snow, especially when we really haven't had much this year. But let's jump in everything. As always, welcome into all the listeners out there that are listening in. We're just getting trickles of people starting to jump on here. People are ready for the madness. As always, send in any questions you will get to. Today's show is mostly going to be, as always, with the right side of campus, more of a daily breakdown of what's going on tonight. If you want more as far as the tournament's concerned, we will be talking about that on tomorrow's roundtable, which is slated to go on as normal. I will have all the panel, the everyone joining in. We're going to talk about it all week, but tonight is more of a great time to kind of break down the NIT, some of these playing games. I'm going to give you a detailed breakdown of both these playing games for anyone that hasn't seen some of these teams play. Donnie, how's everything over in your neck of the woods? I know you didn't get as much snow as we did.
No, I didn't get that much snow. It is a lot of sleep. But again, when Snowmageddon comes up and the big stations tell you how much snow there's going to possibly be, everything shuts down. So all the schools were down, businesses were down, even though you possibly could get around today. Not recommended early. There's a lot of ice and stuff like that. But you know how it gets, which is perfect for us because, you just get into your bunker, get in your office. The games are coming on. Just gives you a little bit extra time to go over what you need. Same thing for the listeners out there. If you're in that Northeast corridor, it's going to be a great day just to sit back, relax, pop open a beer because everything's going to get started. I would say, big man, let's get right into the Dayton games today.
Hey,
just to give the people a taste on that. Yeah.
Great day yesterday if you were a owner of a grocery store of some kind.
Oh, it's brilliant.
You made out I went to the store yesterday because I had to get a couple things, and I couldn't believe it was literally 1 o'clock Eastern, and it was like it was crazy.
It's hard to even get a cart to even go in there and shop with.
Every line's open. It's like, Christ. I mean, if you were a local store owner, you made a ton of money. But yeah, let's jump in everything. Obviously, do you want to get to the playing games here first, and then we'll
hit the playing games, and then we'll go over some NIT options. I think it'll work perfect.
Yeah, it begins tonight. First game on the card, 6:40 Eastern. You got the first playing game here in Dayton. It is basically a chance to go get obliterated by Villanova, who was in the news yesterday around here. They left a little early. A lot of teams affected by this blizzard, including the Villanova Wildcats, which we'll get into. But in this game, you got the New Orleans Privateers against Mount St. Mary's. Now, the line's pretty much around 1. New Orleans has been 1 for pretty much the whole day here. Yesterday, I believe at times it was 2, went up to 2.5 at one point, quickly went back down to 2. So this one's right around the pick'em range. right at this point at 1. Look, for anyone that, again, I know Sportsbook, they talked about it. Listen, I'm a huge proponent of watching teams before I bet them. I know, Donnie, that's something you do.
Love it. Yep.
It's a huge thing because you look at, if you don't pay attention to things, the ways you can really get hurt in things. Like I saw last night, a lot of people were betting on that CIT game between Norfolk State and Liberty. Look, I'm going to go ahead and venture that 85% of the people that bet on that game had not seen Liberty play all year. They didn't know the situation. They didn't know what spots were which. And it's really just not a good idea if you're doing something, because if you don't watch a team play, Mount St. Mary's could be a horrible matchup. You really don't really know unless you know and you watch these teams. Look, the big thing you need to know in this game, New Orleans, the 5th oldest team in the country as far as age. So you look at these guys, a lot of seniors, a lot of juniors, a lot of kids that have never been on this stage but have worked hard their whole career to get to this stage. 1996, Donnie, that's the last time New Orleans University made it to the National March Madness Tournament. Now, I'm sure many of you didn't know New Orleans had a university.
Exactly.
When you type in Google New Orleans basketball, the Pelicans are going to come up, not New Orleans University. But you look at this team, I mean, very senior laden. If you look at it from a rebounding perspective in this game, the big difference here is going to be, to me, on that edge. You look at Mount St. Mary's, 339th in the country in rebounding per game. They are one of the worst on the glass. New Orleans significantly better. The problem I have here is who's going to be able to pressure the ball better. Both these teams play that ball pressure type of defense, particularly Mount St. Mary's. They're going to play that mayhem type of defense. And New Orleans will turn the ball over. That's something they definitely do. Both these teams pressure the basketball. But for me, you know what I look at? Rebounding, efficiency, that kind of thing. How old the team is. That's big to me, because I see a guy in Eric Thomas who has never been to the tournament. He's the best player on the court. He could take a game over. And I personally, I've seen some New Orleans this year. I like this team more than I like in Mount St. Mary's. To me, that NEC conference, one of the worst in the country, if you ask me. If you look at down in the Southland Conference, New Orleans is very good. Corpus Christi was a good basketball team. Stephen F. Austin, Houston Baptist. There's a lot of teams in this conference that are, I think, better competition than what we faced at Mount St. Mary's. So for me, I would go with New Orleans here. Not in love with the game, but if I had to play it, I would go with New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with what you're talking about there. And again, we just want to get through to the listeners as well. Going over all these games, giving a viewpoint. Put it this way. I'm sure Big Man, if he had a card on a Saturday where he had 100 games to choose from, we're probably not going to zero in on this one, even though technically when it lines up, it's a really good basketball game. But it's one of those, I mean, you look at the Vegas line, opens up at 1.5, swings 1 in the other direction. Both of these teams are going to bring the defense, both similar styles. They're going to force turnovers. Both do turn the ball over. New Orleans a little bit more than Mount St. Mary's does. Not prolific shooting teams. Both teams defend pretty well. It's one of those, and again, you're throwing in the mix of the pressure of these kids getting to the tournament and also playing on a neutral court site, having that spotlight shine as the first overall game of the tournament. To me, it would be a pass. I would lean towards Mount St. Mary's myself. I just like the way they play basketball. I think they can slow it down and do enough to win this ball game. But again, this would be nowhere near my card. But again, just the fun of it being in the tournament itself. Everybody's going to be tuned in and watching. And again, what's the big prize picture here? You win this game, you celebrate, you're on a plane right after the game, and the coach rolls out the notebooks, goes, all right, fellas, Villanova we got next. And everybody just goes right back in their seat like this. I mean, that's really what it is. Good for the kids playing in tonight, but overall picture, it's not going to matter much.
I'm just a little bit more confident in New Orleans. I think I'm more confident backing them. I don't think the Northeastern Conference is very good. I don't know how challenged they really were in that conference all year. I just like this New Orleans story. I like the athletes that they have. I would imagine they're going to attract a better athlete than a Mount St. Mary's would. And look, from perspective of stats, all that sort of thing, New Orleans wins most of the battles. If you like a up a tempo, 80 to 79 type of game, this probably isn't going to be the game for you. This probably will be pretty low scoring, pretty wonky. Both these teams, not great to watch. Look out for Eric Thomas, though, a kid who is really good, 20 points a game, probably one of the better players in this conference other than Rashawn Thomas for Corpus Christi. So look out for this team. But again, not a lot, again, you'd win a tournament game, but then you got to look at being 24-point underdogs to Villanova. So that's kind of the prize here.
Mm-hmm.
Pick how you will in this one. The other one, and we got some chat box info. Guys, again, you like soccer. I love soccer myself. Donnie, you know that. I tune into all the SBR shows on soccer. Head on over, check out their videos. I'm sure they have a lot better viewpoints than we would. A lot of the time, I enjoy soccer and just watch it. I don't bet on it significantly. But again, let's try to keep the talk on here due to the level of the amount of comments we're getting. Let's keep it more to the basketball stuff. Donnie, any questions that you're seeing that you want to address before we get into this other game?
No, but starting of the tournament, I see a chat box listener out there. White Guy Video Games. Are you a fan of tournament futures? If so, which ones would you like this year? Me and Big Man were going over a couple of those futures yesterday, which, again, the really smart money, a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, the future at the beginning of the tournament. These futures really gain steam and gain a lot of access and a lot of wherewithal when you bet them before the season, when you pick out a couple things. Over yesterday, some of your futures. I think it'll be perfect to explain by in at the right time and losing a little bit of value. Again, there is some value in heading into the tournament, picking brackets, you know, if you want to go all the way or just getting out of the actual Eastern or Western brackets there. Big Man, talk a little bit about getting value at the beginning of the season when you really want to take advantage of a great hedge opportunity with maximum exposure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more of a future guy, you know, early in the season. I bet some of my futures I bet in October. So, I mean, I have futures that for me, I'm getting a lot more value in. Again, I try to do a lot of work in the off season to find out more about these things. But again, if you look at the bracket and you really study the bracket, there's some good value in some of these winning the region, those kind of things, you know, kind of really delving into some of the matchups that you're seeing. You know, if you see a team in, let's say, a Gonzaga who you don't think has a really tough bracket as far as that's concerned, you know, again, they're very profitable. For me, though, when I bet a future, when I'm going to tie my money up long term, which again, I mean, you're going to be waiting nearly a month to cash. For me, I'm going to look to getting high end payouts, not a plus 180 or something like that. I'm more or less interested in you know, a future with high value at that number. So for me, like a future I would look at is like, I'll be honest, in my bracket, and this is a free piece of information, I really believe Wisconsin is going to give Villanova a very good game in the second round, honestly. I think Wisconsin is a sleeper type of pick. I think Villanova this year, I'm not as high on them as many were this year or last year. I think Villanova is beatable. And I think, you know, if you like a team like that, you know, Wisconsin to win the East region at 1475, plus 1475, I mean, something like that is something I'm looking more into. Not does Villanova at plus 180? That's not enough value to me. I'm not huge into it, but if you study the brackets, you definitely can get some value. I'll probably put a couple in just for shits and giggles, but you know, like a Michigan to win the Midwest over 10-1. Could I see it? Sure. I mean, the motion, that's not a great bracket to me. So yeah, I could see it, but I'm not in love with some of these as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, even looking at the futures, I like to take an angle when I bet futures, which is why I like conference futures better than actually NCAA tournament futures. Going back, if you heard the last couple shows, the roundtable, you know, me and Big Man show, you know, I was very high on Michigan and very high on Maryland just due to some circumstances in opposite brackets in the Big Ten. Michigan future does go on the cash, but in the conference tournaments, you actually, the bigger ones, Power 5, a lot of these teams are already slotted unless they're fighting over a number one seed, which nobody in the Big Ten was doing. So you wanted to actually factor in who had motivation and who didn't have motivation. The equation is completely taken out once you get to the NCAA tournament. It's survive and advance. Everybody wants to win here. How motivated actually was Purdue last week? They won the Big Ten regular season. They get into a fight. Michigan's a hot team and they lose. Did Michigan, Purdue, cry and say, oh, we're going home now? No, they know there's bigger picture. There's the NCAA tournament. Michigan rode that hot hand and picked up a nice future for myself, even though I did hedge it out because, again, I'm all about making money and getting profit. So in that last game, I hedged out a little bit with the Wisconsin Badgers there, which was fine. But to me, overall, finding future access there, I want to have an advantage, meaning which team has something to play for a little bit more than the other team, which is what we're going to delve into in the NIT shortly. But in the NCAA tournament, it's going to be hard to do that because everybody's going to be scraping and clawing just to move forward.
Yeah, and you're totally right. And there's a good point made here by Vitalis. why go plus 200 when you could just bet them every single game? Like in Arizona, to me, again, but we also have to remember we're betting them against the spread. We're not picking them to win. So again, I see the value in Arizona. I totally do. I think at 2-1, honestly, I see them getting to the elite, right near the Elite Eight. I mean, if they can beat Gonzaga, which, many think they're the weakest 1 seed, I'm not sure it is. Here's the problem with Gonzaga at this point and what bracket they're in. Arizona is the one team in their bracket that they beat in the regular season. That, for me, is why Gonzaga's up until the Elite Eight. I'm concerned after that. I think they should waltz to the Elite Eight. We talked about that. I don't see anyone that's going to dethrone them. Mm-hmm. Arizona is the one team that I think will dethrone them. I love Gonzaga. I'm going to be rooting for them. I have it. I just think that could be the one roadblock if you're Gonzaga, just because they beat them in the first game this year. No Alonzo Trier, no Parker Jackson Cartwright. And for me, they're the 2 seed that has – I mean, they have their bracket's a joke down in the bottom there. I mean, there's no one in that other than Florida State that I'm concerned with for Arizona. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, again, that 2-1 is probably the one that I would consider looking at. Yeah, we're going to get into the rule change for the NIT. We're just kind of going over some of these here.
Big man, why don't you get started on that second game then? A little bit better, a little bit more national exposure in that one.
Yep, you got another game here. You got an 11 matchup here. Basically, 2 bubble teams that were really close to being on the outside looking in. But you look at this one, 9-10 Eastern. You got Kansas State. This one's up to 2 from what I understand. Let me get the updated line here. You're seeing 2, Donnie?
Yeah, no, it actually flipped a little bit over. Sharp money came in and pounded Kansas State a little bit up to -2 when I think Wake Forest earlier today was a -1 favorite.
Very good. 2. So, again, you're getting some sharp money coming in here on the Kansas State Wildcats. Listen, the one thing I want to make sure and make everyone aware of in this game, both these teams offensively should be able to do what they want to do. I mean, you look at Wake Forest, very good guard play. John Collins is a really good NBA type of player, kind of similar to the way Damian Jones was for Vanderbilt last year in the SEC. Two similar kind of players, guys that have NBA ceilings. Wake Forest is the better team to me in this game. As far as aside, I'm going to get into that here in a moment, but you look at this over team for Wake Forest. They're 21-8 to the over this year. Defensively, they've had major issues all year, giving up 82 points a game on the road. They've also been very efficient offensively. So if you like points, this is probably the game for you. You look at this year in tournament games, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons are 5-0 to the over. So when they're playing on these neutral court settings, not a lot of defense being played. For Kansas State, look, I've talked about Kansas State. I don't know how good they are. The one thing I do know that they do, if you look at their scoring, whether it's Brown or Dean Wade or whoever, very good scoring team, pretty efficient, 4 or 5 guys in double figures. They're definitely going to be able to score the basketball in this Wake Forest defense. To me, I also think they're going to struggle from the three-point line. Wake Forest, a very good three-point shooting team, particularly Keyshawn Woods, Austin Arians, the Milwaukee transfer. These are really good three-point shooters. Kansas State, 38% from 3 they're giving up this year. They're going to have issues guarding the three-point line as well. For me, I would look over the total in this game. I think both these teams do a nice job of scoring the basketball. You can't go against some of Wake's trends over the total this year. Like I said, both teams should have success scoring the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that as well. And they did a very good job, the selection committee, lining these games up, because if you have 2 first-round games, you're looking at each one about a point and a point apiece. Flip of a coin could go either way. A lot of things, come into these two. You have Wake Forest in the ACC going against Kansas State, obviously out of the Big 12. In most rankings, these conferences were 1 and 1A, and you're taking those teams right in the middle of the pack. To me, I didn't really even think, big man, that Wake Forest was actually a tournament team itself getting into there or being deserving of that. I think I give the lean a little bit more towards Kansas State here. Just an overall better picture of a team for them. But again, it's a game that it won't be on my card. I will be watching and, taking notes for the next round. But these games right here are razor thin. And when you're betting games, there's always a better game anyway. I mean, when you look at these, is there anybody out there that could say I have a clear advantage? Kansas State's going to roll Wake Forest in a tournament game in Dayton on a neutral court environment in the big game spotlight. I don't think you have a clear decided advantage here.
See, I actually disagree. I think Wake is the better team personally. I think they're well coached. I hate Bruce Weber. I made that clear. I don't know how good he is as a X&O coach. Listen, Kansas State towards the end of the season underachieved to me. I didn't like that performance against Oklahoma. Again, I know we throw a lot of that out, but listen, I think Wake's a better team. But again, like you said, razor thin on both these games on a decided advantage either way. I think the best advantage in this game, over. It's at 148. It's dropped a little bit.
These teams aren't going to just tighten it up offensively, Jeff. You were exactly right on that. And again, keep in mind, people, it's win or go home. If this is an 8-point game with a minute and a half to go, best believe they're going to be hacking the hell out of each other to try to extend the game. They're not going to play this down to the wire. Let's get 2 stops with 40 seconds to let down 8. They might start this like in the NHL, pulling the goalie at 2.5 minutes. Same thing with fouling and extending the game, because whatever they want to do, if there's 3.2 seconds left and you're down 6 points, they are fouling in this situation, because any edge or anything that can keep you in or extend the game, they're going to do that tonight.
Yeah, again, these would be cool games to watch and hang out and watch, but I'm not sure how good they are from a betting perspective. Again, probably the strongest play for me, lean wise in both these games would be the over in Kansas State Wake, and I would take a shot with New Orleans on the money line. But
yeah, I would say the best games out of these first 4 games probably would be tomorrow. I mean, not very many people, outside of hardcore handicappers and people that are just basketball junkies know much about NC Central and UC Davis as it is. But a lot of people are going to know about that USC Providence game. That's probably the best game overall on the card, and they're going to save that best for last tomorrow night there in Dayton.
Yeah, I definitely have some interest in that NC Central UC Davis game. I've seen UC Davis probably 7 or 8 times this year, seen NC Central 4 or 5 times. So I'm definitely excited for that game. For me, I'm happy to see both those teams on the stage. I am a little disgusted that NC Central, I've seen a lot of people in the basketball purist community saying that, why is NC Central a playing game? They should. I mean, they were one of the stronger mid-majors as far as low mid-majors, if you ask me. They ran through that conference. They're a really good basketball team. I'm not sure why they're in a playing game, but Lavelle Moton's going to do his thing, definitely. And if I'm NC State, I'm looking in hardcore to him as a basketball coach. He would be a perfect fit, I think, for that team. Francis Dunn, some great insight from Donnie. Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Francis. Francis is a longtime listener to all the shows here. Joe Watson, how you doing? Joe Watson had some trouble with the bracket. I'm guessing you found it. But Donnie, let's get into a little NIT. Yeah. I know a lot of people are interested in our inputs on some of these games tonight. Why don't you chat about some of these rule changes, which, by the way, Don, your opinion, before we get into the NIT, which are the lower level teams, let's just quickly talk about a guy that is involved in a team that many think has a nice run. Lavar Ball wants a $1 billion shoe deal with Nike for his Tree Sons. Any thoughts on that?
Now, I don't even know how, it has to be some sort of NCAA violation here. So let's just say, Lonzo Ball goes pro next year, and he says all 3 of his boys are going to be in this shoe deal. So when the middle kid goes to UCLA, he already
the middle kid's not any good.
That's what he already has, $1 billion shoe deal. And then why, if it's $1 billion for all 3, why does the last 2 kids even care if they even make it to the NBA or college? Right. They already have, split up of $1 billion. I mean,
he also said yesterday that he would have beaten Michael Jordan easily in one-on-one.
Yeah, and I see. What's funny about that? I see a lot of things on Twitter where you have these 2 factions. Half the factions are saying LeVar Ball, leave it alone. You're an idiot. And the other said, boy, it would be nice to have dads like this who really push their sons and cared about them. I don't really think it's too much about pushing your son and caring about him, but the bigger question is, why are you putting, these kids are good and you push them hard. You can stay in the background. What happens if something goes out where Ball doesn't play well and they lose to Kent State? or he goes to the NBA, has a rough first year, maybe gets popped for smoking weed or maybe a DUI, and the avalanche is going to come down. Like when you watch Lonzo Ball and the 3 kids, they look like good kids. Like, why are you, muddying the waters out there when these kids don't deserve it? He's a great player. He's going to make a lot of money.
And you're right. He is a great player. And I think I will admit I understand where he's coming from as far as he wants these kids to do well, and he pushes them to do well. And I have no problem with that. I often wish, when I was young, really young, my parents didn't care. They wanted me to, go to school and do well and get rich someday. They didn't care about sports. I often wish, when I have a son, I'll push him to play sports. That's where I want him to go because I enjoy sports. I have a problem with the branding and the constantly pushing your big baller brand. The kids are good kids. I mean, if you watch the videos, they seem like normal, regular kids, and they're good basketball players. The problem is the middle one is nowhere near Lonzo, and the young one is so raw that we have no idea. To put these huge mounting claims on these kids, it's troubling for sure. And if he fizzles out, he's a smart guy. He knows that reality sells nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it.
No, it's definitely a good point there.
Let's get into the NIT, Donnie, the not in tournament teams. That's always what I thought the NIT stood for. Break down the rule changes here.
Yeah, let's take the NIT overall as a whole here. Back in the day, 1950s, it was the premier tournament, bigger than the NCAA March Madness. Coming into the NIT, you do know all of these schools technically really don't want to be there, which is rule number 1. Number 2, a lot of these schools are on spring break. Number 3, rule changes that are coming into this that are really going to wreak havoc. I talked to Jeff this morning, and I was just going over a couple numbers. Every single game on the card today, NIT, who has a total wager, is well above that total number. If I'm staying correct, there's even a few games out of there that are up 7 to 8 points over their opening total just as of yesterday, which is unheard of. Reason being in here is they're going to throw in quarter play. Now, when you hear that, you think of like the women's basketball game or, a high school basketball game, 4 quarters. But there's actually 4 segments, not quarters. So when they play that first 10 minutes, which, some people say, okay, there's 4. So that means, somebody's going to hold the ball the last 30 seconds 4 times instead of 2 times. That's not correct. The game actually resets at the 10-minute mark, but doesn't stop due to the fouling situation. The one interesting caveat here is there's no longer going to be the 1-and-1 bonus system. There's only going to be 2 foul shots, a la what the NBA does. There's going to be a 4 foul limit per technical quarter of those 10 minutes. So if we take the first half and just look at it, you have a 10-minute segment and a 10-minute segment. You have 4 fouls in that first 10 minutes. Once you hit the 4 fouls, it's the bonus situation like you would have 7 in a full half in college basketball. Once you hit that 4 limit, it's 2 shots for the opposing team each time. Once you hit that 10-minute mark, it resets back to 0, which is key because then you have another second wave where if you were already in that 4 fouls 5 minutes in, as you see in the current college basketball system, they're going to be in the bonus the rest of the half. This is going to reset and allow you to reevaluate. Maybe you fouled early on, you didn't mean to, whatever the case would be. But this also gives you a chance to be in the double bonus twice per half as opposed to once per half, and it's only at 4 fouls. That's going to play into it. One of the other key rule changes here is if you see a lot, if you're a total bettor, what do you not like to see? If you dribbled the basketball and there's 30 seconds on the clock, you run it all the way down to 8 seconds, 7 seconds, 6 seconds. The team only has 3 fouls. He gets tripped on the baseline. They inbound the ball on the baseline, throw it up top, and another 30-second shot clock goes. So you might not even have a single shot on an offensive possession for just about a minute. What they're going to do now is take that 30-second clock and shift it back to 20 seconds, but only in the front court. If you're inbounding under your own basket, it's going to be a full 30-second shot clock. If you are in the front court going in, it's an automatic 20-second shot clock, which should, in theory, speed up the process. The one thing, if I'm a contrarian bettor right now, nobody's actually seen this in play. So everybody is gambling out there on the box saying, you know what? If that line was 135, it's now 145. If I'm not contrarian gambler, I'm going, wait a second. If Las Vegas, who doesn't have much data on this, is going to put it out at 135 as an educated guess, the sharps, the gamblers bet it up to 145. Who's to say that you're not getting supreme value with 145 where this new foul system and this new timing system might not even play or wreak any havoc and you're getting a free 10 points? I do say in this situation tonight, it's better to sit back in the NIT on the totals and watch the game and see the progressive and see the flows, maybe get in with a live wager at the half or a live wager in the first half or at the timeout, how you can get it. If you want to bet the sides, that's fine. But totals right now, I would advise maybe taking a little bit of a step back or just betting contrarian until you see the way these games are going to flow. I think we lost Jeff's voice there. He's on mute. Still on mute.
I knew Donnie was going to talk for a little bit, so I put myself on mute. My fault, guys. But no, as far as the NIT, I'm more or less a guy that I'll wait a little, a day or two, because I know last year they were experimenting with that new shot clock at 30 from 35. So yeah, there was a lot of overreaction with those overs as well. And I remember a lot of unders were coming in. Yeah, you look at a lot of these totals. I mean, you pointed it out: 4, 5, 6 point moves. I mean, games that, I got to be honest, I wouldn't be looking over in. And
exactly,
I'm going to bring some things up. First of all, quit talking about the NIT. If anyone bets the NIT, they need to stop betting. Chris, one of the dumber comments I've ever seen on here.
Well, no, I mean, if you go back and listen, which I'm sure he was doing there, you just heard me say, if you're going to bet a side, that's fine. You can find action. But when rules and uncertainty come into play, you better take a step back and watch and see exactly like what's going on, how the flow would be. Again, myself, I'm not going to be in action in the NIT tonight because I don't bet with uncertainty. Not tonight, but I just wanted to give my viewpoint there. But I'm going to bet the NIT. Yes, absolutely.
Which he's basically saying that he would never bet the NIT. You're going
there's value in the NIT.
Yeah, that's not true at all. Again, I think Donnie makes a good point. Maybe tonight it's probably not something I want to do. I want to maybe see, but I'm going to tell you right now, to me, I don't think it means a whole hell of a lot in Cal Bakersfield. That game's going to go low no matter what. I don't care what the shot clock is. Both those teams are extremely good defensive teams. Neither team pushes tempo at all. Cal, one of the slower tempo teams you're going to find. Where's Cal's mindset in this game?
Yeah, no, the same thing, which is great, which I'm glad you're bringing up, big man, the mindset of these teams, especially in the first round. Now, as well as I do, let's go back to just being a kid. First day of school, you're like, oh, my God, I got to go back to school. First, playing college football, you get a break on Labor Day, and you come back to camp after having 3 days off after like a 3-week run of doubles. You put the pads on, you get back in, you're like, oh, my God, I do not feel like being here. It's the same way. Take a look at College of Charleston and Colorado State. Hearts ripped out in the finals. They wanted to go to the big dance. Now you're going to say, hey, College of Charleston, I'm going to put you in a plane, fly you into Colorado into a dead environment with another team, and let's see if you just get hype and make a run. These first-round games are so hard to gauge the emotional makeup of these kids, and do they want to be there, do they not want to be there? Now, typically what happens is once they play that first game, get the juices back flowing, you feel good again, you picked up a win, then you can start to steamroll in the NIT, feel good about yourself, say, hey, maybe we can make a run. Let's get to Madison Square Garden. Let's rally around this. But these first-round games, teams not caring, and just like Indiana's going to Georgia Tech. Technically Indiana's the better team. Ole Miss is going to Monmouth. We saw it a couple years ago, big man. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kentucky having a lousy season, going to Robert Morris, and Robert Morris having the biggest game you ever could have had on campus and beat Kentucky in that situation.
Well, keep in mind, from what I remember about that game, there were some issues in Lexington where they couldn't play at the what's it called? What's their stadium called?
Oh, it was Rupp Arena.
Rupp Arena, right? Yeah, they couldn't play there due to some things they were doing there. But yeah, again, mindset's all, and that's all it's about in this tournament. To me, in like that Colorado State game, I don't care what kind of game it is. To me, Gian Clavel is going to bring it no matter what. Though it is a quick turnaround. I mean, that was Saturday night. You didn't travel till Sunday. Yesterday, who knows what you did, and now today you got to play a game. The whole spring break thing, though, means absolutely nothing to me.
Nobody will be there. There's going to be nobody at these games.
Okay, but again, this isn't in desolate North Dakota somewhere. I mean, these are high-end college towns. I mean, it's not like they're like little places no one lives in. I mean, I remember, in certain games where I thought there'd be no one there. And listen, the community is going to come out to these games no matter what. Listen, you look at a Syracuse tonight. I saw someone on here talking about Syracuse. There's going to be 75 people in the stadium. Are you aware that Syracuse's enrollment is 22,000? There's
Yeah, they only
14,000.
want winners, though, man. They only want winners in that situation.
There's 14,607 undergraduates currently enrolled at Syracuse. There's going to be plenty of people there. 75 people? Come on. I mean, Carrierdham's huge. People will be there.
Also, you got to look at let's go Indiana, Georgia Tech. I mean, you got the head coach of Georgia Tech saying he's going to buy the students tickets just to show up. And that's Indiana coming to town. These teams in these conferences play to get into the big dance. When they don't get into the big dance, it's just a big, hey, you guys going to go to the game tonight? Nah, I really don't feel like it. Doesn't really mean anything. That's what you get on campus. Syracuse is used to playing in front of 25, 30,000 people. If they get 10,000 people there, the players will come out and look around and be like, man, nobody's here. They don't even care. That's what you get round one.
Yeah, look, I hear you. There's plenty of motivational issues, and that's why I think you're right on a game like tonight. I wouldn't be looking at. There are a few games that I would look at. Obviously, the Bakersfield total. I would be looking slow in that game no matter what. I just think that one's going to be slow, close to the vest.
Yeah.
There are some teams that I got to wonder. I mean, are they really even close to being like? Is Valpo without Alec Peters? Are they really ever worthy to be backed at all?
No,
I
don't see how you can.
Without Alec Peters. I mean,
they scored 41 points when they went out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a team I would look. No,
yeah.
That's the team I would look nowhere close to looking into. Then you got some smaller tournaments, CBI, CIT. Jacksonville hasn't played for some time. They're at home. Very good 3-point shooting team. Keep in mind, St. Francis, a PA, struggles to defend the 3-point line. They're off of a tough loss over at Mount St. Mary's, a game I remember I had them in. But, yeah, again, I think Donnie makes great points here with these opening round games. Not worthy to be looked into right now.
Hey, by the way, big man, another one you don't want to get confused with. That last game you talked about, St. Francis, PA, and versus Jacksonville. This isn't the Jacksonville State that's in the tournament.
Correct.
This is Jacksonville as of in Florida on this one. Same thing with St. Francis, PA. There is a St. Francis, New York as well. Just make sure you do your homework because, again, the NIT throws these lower-level teams in there. It's up to you to decide which one you want to take, but that's an interesting situation where you can confuse both of the teams in that game.
So I guess the general inclination. So, Donnie, you actually believe no one will go to the Syracuse game tonight?
I'm not saying nobody, but when you're used to getting a packed house and they show up for Duke, they get excited for ACC basketball. They want championships in Syracuse. A team coming into town, which none of these kids ever heard of in the NIT, it's almost like they're probably embarrassed to even go to this game.
Yeah, I think Syracuse is going to have a chip on their shoulder in this tournament. I'd believe that. They've been very good at home, no matter who's there. I think Syracuse is a team, they would probably be one I would back right away, honestly. I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I think Boeheim's going to say to them, look, these motherfuckers didn't think you were good enough to get in the tournament. Even we thought you were. You guys know you probably were. Let's go out and ball out. I mean, I would back them right away, personally.
No, I hear you on that. I do.
I might be into that. I'll be honest. I don't think crowd noise or anything means anything.
No, it's not the crowd noise. It's psychological. When you're used to the big game and you play in front of big crowds and your stadium is half empty, you're sitting there scratching your head, go, damn, this isn't a big game. They know it's not a big game. You think Syracuse missing out on the tournament? They probably went home that night, got drunk, did whatever they wanted to do, didn't give a damn, showed up at practice, shot a couple 3 balls, and like, who we playing, coach? We're going to play College of Charleston. And they're scratching their head going, I never heard of that school.
Greensboro.
Yeah, exactly. See, there, even that even made my point.
Yeah, I disagree, but I think they're going to come out and play just fine tonight. I think they'll be ready and raring to go. I don't think 15,000. There'll be plenty of people there. I don't think it's going to be a situation where no one goes to the games because I think that's what people are trying to say. But I hear you. We all have our opinions. What are you looking at, Donnie, tonight? Is there anything you have your eye on?
I mean, having my eye on is actually just the rule changes tonight. Like, I'm really going to be watching, as many games I possibly can on the monitors and the TVs just to see the flow of this. Because, again, you're trying to track knowledge from tonight and tomorrow to see how it's going to apply. The better value in the NIT, to me, does not come game one. Again, because I need to see who really wants to be here, who's putting out their best foot forward, who wants to survive and advance to the next round and actually play for their team in this one. And, again, when you're throwing in, this isn't just one little minor change where they're going to say, let's just make one rule change and we'll give you, an extra foul or something like that. Instead of getting to the bonus at 7, it's going to be 8. Like, these are major rule changes, which teams are going to have to adapt to and find out exactly what the scenario is going to be. The one thing I will point out, Jeff, that we talked about earlier is keep in mind when you're betting a side in this situation, what do we always get upset and angry with? At the end of the game, you always can maybe anticipate a sort of collapse coming. Because when you have 7 fouls, 8 fouls, and 9 fouls, let's just say you foul the free throw shooter that shoots 61%. He's not going to hit that first free throw in the 1-and-1. Now you're going to be able to take a deep breath at the line, and he's going to have a different mindset going, let me just make 1 out of 2 here. So that line that was 3, 4, or 5 points in the last minute, knowing that when you foul, the other team's going to get 2 automatic free throws, I think it's going to lessen the amount of the collapse. And also, if you're a favorite, help you cover the line a little bit easier than in the past. Because again, you're getting 2 free throws as opposed for 1.
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's definitely something that I'm going to keep my eye on, see how it kind of works. It's very experimental. I'm kind of sick of these rule changes. I mean, let's just leave it the way it is. I did like the 30-second change, but, some of these.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, agreed. Interesting CIT game tonight, Donnie. I wonder how Campbell will come out. Chris Clemens obviously had that awesome run in the conference tournament. Listen, I think for them, that was kind of a surprising thing that they got that far. I'm not sure that losing to Winthrop was something that they couldn't live with for a week straight. I kind of like them tonight in this spot against Houston Baptist. Houston Baptist is a team out of the Southland that had a very premature exit from their conference tournament. They had won 11 in a row. They went in their conference tournament feeling a little bit fat, lost to Sam Houston State. Campbell at home here, I got a feeling they're going to be pretty excited about being in a conference tournament. This team wasn't very good throughout the year, but they've really come on. They had that ESPN game late in the year in the final. They've been off for a couple days. Chris Clemens is the best player in the court, Donnie. And I think in a spot like this is a team that I'm going to look to back because I think they're another team. How about we go out and win this tournament? We're in a conference tournament or in a postseason tournament. Let's do something here. I got to tell you, I like this Camels team, and Chris Clemens is, to me, one of the best players in the country. I'd love to have on my team.
Yeah, no, just early on when you're looking at situational playing, Campbell is going to get excited for wherever they're playing just to extend it. When most teams here, they got into the NIT, it's like, yeah, we got another game to play. But when Campbell probably got the invitation, that was like a celebration getting into March Madness. And the way they played down the stretch, they left, a good taste in the mouth of their fans. People across the country, good players, playing well at that time of the year. They're going to have a lot of fun. One of those other situations that's interesting is like a team like Alabama in the SEC. Richmond's going to come down there and play fundamental basketball. I think Richmond would be excited to be in the NIT, so leaning towards a points situation like that, I would almost certainly look forward to as well. Another interesting one, Oakland's a good ball club, going down to Clemson, getting more than 10 points. The ACC difference in overall athletic play, obviously from a team like Oakland, there is a wide margin. But again, a lot of this is going to come into fruition. Like, who wants to play in the situation? Do they care down in Little John Coliseum that Oakland's coming to town? Again, half the kids and half the players don't know where Oakland is even from, thinking like, hey, the team from California is coming to play us. But it's another one of those situations that's going to be interesting to look at. Who wants to be there? Who doesn't? Mississippi, we talked about it already, big man, heading to Monmouth. They don't know where Monmouth is at in that one.
Real quick, Donnie, with Oakland, they better be prepared to Clemson because Oakland beat Georgia this year, albeit it was at home. Yeah. But this Oakland team pronounced, they're more interested in defense this year, which under Campy, listen, they lost Khalil Felder, okay? I mean, they weren't the same team they were last year, but they're still a really good team. Jalen Hayes, Martez Walker, Sharon Dorsey Walker, Stevie Clark, they're a good team. They really are. And I think going down to play at Clemson, I got to tell you, I think Oakland, they're another team that from a standpoint of, I don't think I have to guess where their mindset is in this game. Oakland wants to go out and do something in this tournament. They were exited early as well in their conference tournament, actually very early, a surprising loss to Milwaukee. I like their mindset in this game. Another good point. When I'm backing NIT teams, I'm looking a lot of the times, as far as mindsets are concerned, staying away from a team like a Clemson, a team that I didn't think was very good throughout the year. I wasn't really interested in laying points to them really ever. And I'm getting a team in Oakland that I think mindset is going to be very, very strong in this game.
Yeah. No, I would tend to agree with that one. I would lean always, especially in these situations. Again, you're asking for double digits. You're not asking for Oakland to go down there and win an ACC game on the road. You're just looking for them to hang tough. And again, just questioning, does Clemson really want to be here? Again, this wasn't a team that was, oh man, we just missed the cut. This was a team that was out of gas over the last 3.5 weeks, where everybody kept telling them, come on, Clemson, win this game. You got to win this game tonight. Loss. Come on, Clemson. We'll get them Saturday. Loss. Come on, Clemson. Big game Tuesday. Loss. This is a team that's not, playing at optimum levels heading into this situation either.
Yeah, one thing about this Valpo Illinois game, like I said, Valpo is atrocious without Alec Peters. They're not as good as they were defensively last year, and they've had major issues rebounding the basketball. They're just overall not very good without Alec Peters. Illinois, I know they're playing with a new coach, but for what it's worth, they were very good at home this year. 77 points a game, 12-5 overall in the Big Ten, and they make 3-point shots. I think this one could get ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree with you. I don't even have an argument on that. When you lose your best player, you lose steam in the tournament, you look terrible in your last game, you think your season's over, you get the knock at the door, you're headed to the NIT, and by the way, you're going to go on the road again. It's tough.
Yeah, sure. White Boy Video Games, who has had some good comments today on the chat box. He's talking about, I like a team full of seniors. Yeah, interesting name. You like a team with a lot of seniors. I mean, you definitely want to look at New Orleans then. I mean, they have a ton of guys that are high-end, high-end seniors, juniors. Tevin Broyles, Eric Thomas, Tevin Thibodeau. I mean, there's a lot of upperclassmen on this team. And they're a cool story. I don't know if you've seen their coach. He's kind of a down-home guy. He's really given his life to New Orleans. He moved there, I think, when he was a really young guy. Kind of gave his life to this group, and it's nice that they're in the tournament. I know this team. I mean, they're old. Like I said, 5th oldest in the country. They've worked hard to get to this point, and I think they have a nice performance tonight. As far as the rest of anything else, just some news and notes. We will get into more of the bracket as far as the big dance tomorrow on the roundtable. We have Ed Fang, Dean, Donnie, right side, Drew Martin, Ian Cameron. Everyone's going to join us as always. Do you have anything that you have a burning desire to get to today, Donnie? We I think, talked about everything.
Yeah, and I don't really have the one thing, again, just because I don't have a big ticket wager that gets put out, we're always moving on stuff behind the scenes, checking things out. But again, I think it's a very valid thing to do tonight is don't over jump the gun and just think there's going to be 1 million points that are going to be scored tonight. Maybe some people have the jump on that, but I will be taking a look at some of these games that jump 7 to 8 points in totals and looking to fade that under. And again, I can't stress it enough. Watch these first round games in the NIT. There's a lot of value moving forward in the NIT because once these kids get out of that malaise, like I said earlier, they're going to want to play ball and you're going to have some advantages. And sometimes those advantages are much better than what you're going to find in the NCAA tournament with March Madness coming up. But again, this is a fantastic week just for the overall viewer if you love basketball. It kicks off tonight. I mean, from now, basically, big man, from tonight at 6:40 right through till Sunday is going to be an incredible ride. We're going to have a lot of fun, a lot of shows, and a lot of information. And just keep in mind out there, when you're betting these games, you don't have to bet every game. You don't have to bet every segment. Pick one of those games that you really like out. And again, you all have brackets out there that you're filling out. Live vicariously through there. Pick your shots. Pick the best play that you have on those days and fire away. And most importantly, enjoy these games. I mean, that's what they're there for. This is the time of the year that we really like. Both tournaments. Can't go wrong.
No, you're 100% right. This is, the week that many of us kind of work all year for. But yeah, as far as, I see a lot of talk about the tournament. A lot of these games we will get to tomorrow. As far as from me, again, I like New Orleans a little bit. I like the over 148 in that Kansas State Wake game. As far as NIT, I'm going to be looking more into Illinois. I'm going to be looking into Campbell in the CIT. Games like that. Oakland, maybe. That one's down to 10.5, by the way, Don. So maybe a little money coming in on Oakland. Other than that, guys, a long week here at SBR Forum. We'll have the much talked about roundtable tomorrow. Thursday, obviously the first day of the tournament. Friday, Donnie and I will be back early as we will be on live during the Friday games of the big dance. Saturday, 10 a.m. Instead of doing the Saturday sit down, we're going to have another episode of the Roundtable. Plenty of info coming out. A lot of people going to be giving their opinions. We're here. We're here for everyone. We're here to answer questions. We're here to do all that sort of thing. Michigan is a team of destiny type of feel. Yeah, maybe, but we have to remember, to sometimes those things die out after they do.
They die out as soon as you play a good team like Oklahoma State, right?
Right. And again, if the tournament was, maybe today, I would say, you know what, maybe you're on to something there. But you also have to look at, and we'll get into it tomorrow. I have some good things I want to get out on a Princeton, some of the teams like that that I think are becoming very trendy as far as they're going to win or things like that. But don't forget the other team. They're pretty good too, in like a Minnesota or Purdue or a team like that. So we'll get into all that. Donnie, anything else today?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, by the way, just because we might not have anything serious action going on, me and the big men are going to be watching just about every one of these games, chiming in on Twitter. Follow me at RightSideVP. Even if I don't have a big play that I can't, hand out or I'm not giving to my clients, let's chat about it. It's going to be interesting tonight when you see how some of these games play out with the fouling, who wants to be there. I'm going to be on there. And again, if you see something that you like and you point out, let me know. I'm a sponge. Anybody out there that's giving good information, I'm interested in. The same way as being a fan of these games, I want to learn a lot about the way these rule changes might come into play. So if you see something, come holler at me on Twitter.
Yep. And as well, join me tonight, Big Man on Campus, 5 o'clock Eastern on Spreaker. You can follow me on Twitter. I'll put the link up. Going to break down most of the tournament. My co-host Ryan will join me. He's making an appearance tonight. We're going to talk about that. Join me. Always fun to talk about all this stuff. We'll be back tomorrow. Roundtable. Matt, is it 12 or 12:30, Matt? Because I know
I think it's 12:30 tomorrow, big man.
Okay. Very good. We'll be back 12:30 tomorrow doing that stuff. What game will you most be interested in tonight?
I want Richmond, Alabama. I've been a Richmond fan all year. I'm going to watch that game and probably have a side wager on Richmond getting the points. So that's probably, for me, going to be the biggest game for me to watch that I'm interested in.
Avery Johnson, Donnie, building something down in Alabama as far as – listen, just saying, these games go a long way in showing recruits we're building something here.
Extra practice time, too. It's extra practice time. That's why they like the NIT.
They got Colin Sexton, Donnie, one of the best guards in the country. That's a huge pull for Avery Johnson to do that at Alabama. I'll be watching for that tonight. I'll also be looking into this New Orleans game. I'm excited to see how they come out and play tonight. Everyone have a great night. We'll be back tomorrow with the Roundtable. Join us, 12:30 Eastern. When we do this, we're jumping into the tournament. We're breaking it down. We got everybody. Ed Fang, Drew Martin, Ian Cameron, Donnie Wrightside, me, myself. I got the FGCU T-shirt on today, Donnie.
And by the way, if Richmond does win tonight and cover, we'll have TJ Klein on the show tomorrow for the Roundtable.
Oh, really?
No, just kidding.
Okay, you're acting like somebody we don't like. We'll be back tomorrow. Join us for that. Thanks to Matt for producing and listening to us this whole time. Appreciate it. We'll be back. See you guys later.
Yo, have a good one, man. Peace.